Hello everyone and welcome back for some more Drag Race gossip, secrets and drama. So I'm back for another Have Your Say video and this is for Global All Stars episode 9. So today we're going to be recapping this week's episode, going through the results of the Have Your Say poll, and we'll be talking about some drama that happened after this week's episode to do with an alleged unaired fight in Untucked between Kween Kong and Alyssa Edwards, as well as the backlash that happened after this week's episode. All that and more coming up in today's video, so let's get started. So let's start by recapping this week's episode. So the queens come back in after Pythia's elimination last week, and Vanity feels a little bit unsure about her position in the competition because she's lip-synced so many times. So the queens come back into the workroom the next day, and they play a mini game, and it's where the queens are asked a question and they have to vote for which queen is the answer to that question. And we've seen this quite a few times and it's become one of the staple mini challenges on Drag Race, and it usually involves some kind of shady questions. One of the things I thought was quite interesting was when they said who's the messiest queen, pretty much everyone voted for Tessa Testicle except for Alyssa, who voted for Nalenia, and Alyssa almost couldn't believe that no one had voted for Nalenia. The other thing I thought was funny is who's the shadiest queen, and half the people voted for Kween and half the people voted for Nalenia, and Nalenia seemed really surprised that people thought that she was shady. And the other one was that pretty much everyone voted for Tessa as the next queen who's going to go home. But I thought it was really smart that Nalenia voted for herself to avoid anyone being hurt by that. So the eliminated queens come into the workroom and we find out that the queens have to pair up and do a makeover challenge for this week's main challenge. And because Kween Kong won the mini challenge, she gets to decide her partner and then decide the other pairings. Kween Kong chooses Soa Demuse as her partner. Then for Alyssa, she chooses Eva LaQueen. Kitty Scott Claus is with Miranda Lebrau. Nalenia is with Pythia. Tessa Testicle gets Atina Likas. And then that means that Vanity Vane gets Galabaro. And I felt like this was actually quite fair in the way that the pairings were done, because most queens seemed to get paired with someone who they really got on with and were friends with. Okay, so the rest of the episode is pretty much the queens talking about their style of makeover and how they felt about being eliminated and things like that. One thing I thought was quite interesting though is that Tessa Testicle seemed quite upset about the fact that pretty much everyone had voted for her as the next queen to go home. And I thought it was so funny when earlier in the episode, Kitty had asked quite a shady question to Miranda and asked her if she'd ever done cute. And then during the walkthrough with RuPaul, Miranda just completely threw Kitty under the bus with such a funny read and said that she had never gone so basic with her drag. And I just thought that was so funny.
Have you ever done the kind of drag that Kitty Scott Claus does?
No, I never went this basic, but I'm kind of to it, like... Yeah, but I'm not afraid to be ugly. Never been. No.
Dobby cow.
And I thought it was really lovely to see Miranda and a different side to her that we've not necessarily seen, because she was so funny. Okay, so let's move on to the runways, which is obviously this week's main challenge. And the category was Drag Family Resemblance. So I'll go through each queen's runway and then at the end I'll say which of the pairings was my favourite. So first up we had Kween Kong with Prenene Kong, or in other words, Soa Demuse. Kween said they are serving brown and black excellence on the runway and are having the best time, like they're at the Academy Awards but not acting right. Then we had Alyssa Edwards with her partner Ava Edwards, or in other words, Eva LaQueen. Alyssa said that Ava Edwards is making her debut and the buzz is the killer queen bees. And watching the judges smile as they come buzzing down the runway truly puts her at ease. Then we had Kitty Scott Claus and her partner Puppy Scott Claus, or in other words Miranda Lebrau. Kitty said they are serving teen models ready for our photo shoot, and Puppy doesn't want to be here but our mum has told us that we have to go out and earn money. Then we have Nalenia and Zirconia, or in other words Pythia. Nalenia said they are two beautiful sisters, the moon and the blue moon, and together they are the full moon because they complete each other. And she thinks this look is beautiful and it's very her, and she's so happy that Pythia is living the Nalenia fantasy. Then we had Tessa Testicle and Atina Breasticle, or in other words Atina Likas. Tessa said that Dr. Frankenbooby is back and better than ever, and she's so proud to be showing you that her one and only monster is alive, and it's very high concept, high drag, and high glamour. And then finally we have Vanity Vane and Insanity Vane, or in other words Galabaro. Vanity said they are serving some airline ladies by day, secret agents by night, and rock stars whenever you like. Overall, I think actually everyone did a really good job. I don't think anyone did badly. To me, my favourite in terms of the outfits was definitely Nilenya and Pythia. Just the outfits looked so incredible. I loved the way that they were different colours, but you could tell they came from the same family, and there was definitely a resemblance without them being exactly the same. But also the outfits were just so well made and complemented each other so well. And I also thought she did a really good job with the makeup and the family resemblance. I also really enjoyed Kween and Soa because I think that they did actually look really similar, and I thought the makeup was really good and there was definitely a drag resemblance. The other person I did actually quite like was Tessa. Even though I don't think there was a huge amount of resemblance between the two of them, you could kind of tell there was something, but I really liked the concept of it, and I thought that Athena looked so good in that makeup. She actually, I thought, looked just like Denali, and I saw someone else posted about this on social media, so it wasn't just me, but I really liked it as a concept, but I can see that perhaps it wasn't quite as family resemblance as some of the others. There was also a bit of drama in Untucked, which we'll talk about a bit later in the video, but basically Kween Kong, because she was in the top, she felt like she should win, and she didn't think that Nilenya's makeover on Pythia necessarily looked that good, and she mentioned about seeing Pythia's beard, and there seemed to be some tension between the girls in this Untucked. Coming back to the main stage, and we find out that the winner for this week is Nilenya. And the bottom two are Kitty Scott Claus and Vanity Vane. The two of them lip-sync to the song Believe by Cher. And Kitty Scott Claus is announced as the winner, which means that unfortunately Vanity Vane is told to sashay away. Okay, so let's move on to the results of the Have Your Say poll. So question 1 was which pair had the most family resemblance? And we had 58.8% for Nilenya and Pythia, 26.2% for Kween and Soa, and then 8.8% for Alyssa and Eva. And I do agree, Nilenya and Pythia definitely looked amazing. I loved the outfits, and I do think there was some family resemblance. In terms of the makeup, I will say I did think Kween and Soa were maybe slightly more family resemblance-ish in terms of the makeup. Although I didn't really like the way that they talked about Soa and basically implied like she only looked good because of Kween. I can see what they were trying to say because she did look amazing, but I think that Kween did a really good job putting her makeup style on Soa, and I thought the two of them had a really good family resemblance, but I think the way they worded it made it sound a little bit rude towards Soa, although I think that was unintentional. Question 2 was which pair had the best outfits? And we had 89.8% for Nilenya and Pythia, 4.3% for Tessa and Athena, and then 3.5% for Alyssa and Eva. And I do have to agree, Nilenya and Pythia looked incredible. Their outfits were by far the best. I think they complemented each other so well. They looked amazingly well made as well, but they were just so stunningly beautiful to look at. And it did definitely have that wow factor, and I loved the moon concept because it really worked. Question 3 was, do you agree with the winner? And we had 94.7% for yes and 5.3% for no. So a pretty strong result for yes. And then question 4 was if you answered no above, as in you do not agree with the winner, who do you think should have won instead? Obviously, most people chose NA because they did agree with the winner, but in terms of who people thought the winner should be other than who it was, they said 3% for Kween Kong and 1.9% for Alyssa Edwards. And I do agree in terms of I do believe Nilenya deserved to win, but I think that if it hadn't been her, I think Kween Kong would have been second. And I did really like Alyssa's as well, so I think she would have also been up there. Question 5 was, do you agree with the bottom two? And we had 78.9% for yes and 21.1% for no. And this is actually one of the first weeks in a while where there has been a majority of voting saying they do agree with the tops and bottoms. Question 6, which is then related, was if you answered no above, as in you did not agree with the bottoms, who should have been in the bottom instead? So again, obviously ignoring NA, if we go on to the next, that's Kween Kong with 11.5%, then Tessa Testicle with 7.5%, and then Alyssa with 4%. Now, I don't agree with this. I don't think that Kween deserved to be in the bottom. I don't know whether this maybe is because of the fight that happened in Untucked, and that's why people are voting for Kween. But in terms of the challenge only, Kween definitely did not deserve to be anywhere near the bottom. I think she did a fabulous job, and I think her and Soa probably had the best family resemblance, other than maybe Nilenya and Pythia. Then question 7 was, who won the lip sync in your opinion? And this was quite interesting because it had 64.9% for Vanity Vane and 35.1% for Kitty Scott Claus, which is obviously the opposite to what actually happened because Kitty won the lip sync. I will say I thought Kitty did a decent job. I thought the microphone thing was funny, but I don't know if it was quite as funny as RuPaul was making it out. I am glad that Kitty was in the bottom this week because I do think she deserved to be in the bottom, and she has been saved quite a few times from the bottom so far, and this week was definitely one of the times she deserved to be in the bottom. I don't know if I would say she lost the lip sync. I think it was quite close. They weren't really showing Vanity very much, so to me it was obvious who was going to win because they were pretty much only showing Kitty. But I do think that Vanity maybe was actually embodying the song maybe a tiny bit more, whereas Kitty was relying on being funny and doing some gags. Question 8 was then, who do you think will win the season? And we had 51.6% for Alyssa Edwards, 17.9% for Kitty Scott Claus, and 17.7% for Queen Kong, with Nalenia in 4th place with 12.6%. And this is pretty much unchanged from previous weeks. It usually is Alyssa with the most and then Queen and Kitty somewhere in 2nd and 3rd place. And then finally, question 9 was, who do you want to win the season? Not who you think will, but who do you want to win the season? And we had 80.8% for Nalenia, 10.7% for Alyssa Edwards, and then Tessa Testicle with 4.6%. So a pretty staggering result for Nalenia. And I think this does make sense. Nalenia has been the fan favourite in this question for pretty much the last 2 or 3 weeks running. And I was really, really happy to see Nalenia win this week. So I'm glad that she was getting the credit she deserved. And I can see why she's going to be the fan favourite to win. But we'll have to wait to see if she actually does win or whether someone like Alyssa will win because of the favouritism that has been talked about. Okay, so moving on to the comments for this week, and as you can imagine, quite a few of the comments were talking about Queen Kong and what happened in Untucked. I won't talk about this now because I'm going to talk about it at the end when I talk about the drama. But a lot of the other comments were saying, finally Nalenia won. I don't think I've ever been so relieved / happy to see a queen win a challenge on Drag Race. And I mentioned this earlier, I was very happy that Nalenia won. She not only deserved to win because she did do the best this week in my opinion, but I also think Nalenia has been robbed of a win quite a few times this season. And so it was really nice to finally see her get the credit she deserved because she definitely did deserve it this week. A lot of people also mentioned Kitty during the lip sync, and someone said, Kitty's dips and stuff look so painful, I felt the pain. And this came up quite a lot of times with people saying that they were kind of surprised that Kitty was doing these tricks and splits and that she won the lip sync, because I guess we haven't really ever seen that much lip syncing from Kitty. I thought this was a really difficult one to judge because Vanity did have a worse track record and they definitely didn't really show her that much in the lip sync compared to Kitty. But I do think that Kitty was maybe relying slightly on the gags and everything. And then one comment I thought was really interesting. Someone said, makeover challenges are getting boring and judges / production change the rules for each season. This is something that's been talked about a lot. A lot of people do not like the makeover challenge in general because it usually comes near the end of the season, and quite often the judges will pick and choose what they put importance on in terms of the judging. Sometimes it's whether the queens look really similar and if there's drag family resemblance. Other times it's whether the outfits themselves look really similar. And then other times it's more about the personalities between the queens and the chemistry. And I do agree, it does seem very different every single time we do a makeover challenge. Sometimes it seems that queens have identical outfits and they get praised for it, and then other times they get critiqued for it. But I do feel like the judging in this particular episode was actually quite fair. I do think that Nalenia was the winner, and I do think that Vanity and Kitty were arguably the two worst. And also, talking about the makeover challenge, I don't know if it's just me, but I personally thought that because they brought back the eliminated queens for this challenge, I thought that they were going to give the winning eliminated queen a chance to return to the competition, because we have seen that in the past. And I think that would have been quite a nice thing to do. I guess obviously it means that there's more queens and more episodes, so it's difficult to do that. But I think it would have added a bit more stakes to it, because there were no stakes for the eliminated queens, because there was no real gain for them to do it. And I think that giving them a chance to return to the competition would have maybe made it a little bit more high stakes. But let me know in the comments what you think. Do you think the queens should have been given the opportunity to come back to the competition if they win, or do you think it was better to not give that option? Okay, so moving on to a bit of drama that happened after this week's episode on the back of the fight in Untucked between Kween and Nalenia. So, as we saw, Kween said during Untucked that she thought Nilenya and Pythia were going to be in the bottom this week, and she didn't think that Pythia looked that great. Well, after this episode came out, there seemed to be a lot of accusations and backlash against what happened. It's a bit complicated as multiple people were involved, so I'm going to give a timeline of what happened, although some of the timings are a little bit unclear because they overlap. However, before I start, I just want to say that a lot of this drama happened on social media and Reddit, and so some of this information may not be true or verified, so please bear that in mind. Okay, so the drama seemed to start when someone on the RPDR drama subreddit posted saying that Nilenya was on Instagram Live and apparently said that during Untucked, there was an alleged unaired fight between Kween and Alyssa. Alyssa was supposedly telling Kween not to go so hard on Nilenya, and the Reddit user alleged that Nilenya said in her live that the fight almost got physical between Kween and Alyssa. According to a person who screen recorded Nilenya's live, they only started screen recording after Nilenya had mentioned the unaired fight, but they said that Nilenya did say that. I did find a few clips of the live on Reddit and also TikTok, but I think this may be a different live that Nilenya did after the one where she allegedly talked about the unaired fight. However, in one of the clips that I did find, Nilenya said that she did say to production that Kween was bullying her and Kween should be disqualified because of it.
I don't have problem to say. I say to some of the production, say, for me it's too much. This is bully. She need to be disqualified for that. But they say it's not bullying. She just exposed her opinion. But yeah, it was the only time that I used that word during all the recording. Just in this episode, I use it.
There was also another clip where Nilenya seemed to mention a fight with Alyssa, but from the clip, it's not 100% clear what she meant.
How long was the fight between Alyssa? Very long. I remember. I really don't know the time because I don't have watch.
And so there seemed to be a lot of speculation about what Nilenya had said during the live about the unaired fight, but there didn't seem to be any definitive proof. There was then another Reddit post which appeared to show a screenshot of a tweet where someone was responding to these accusations, and they said that it was all untrue and that people were sending racist comments over a lie. And Nilenya commented on this with the eyes emoji, but that was it. And I did try and find this tweet to see if any more was said, but I couldn't find it, so it may have been deleted. Anyway, after these accusations came out about the alleged physical fight between Kween and Alyssa, someone then posted a video clip on Reddit with the headline, "Seems like the violence with Alyssa is on par with Kween's behaviour at local bars." In the video clip, it appears to show Kween fighting with someone else, but the footage is quite shaky and it's not exactly clear what happened. The person who posted this on Reddit also claimed that this video is from an incident that happened a few weeks ago and that there were other videos like this as well. However, this appears to be false, and this video is actually from 2018 and had already been talked about years before. So it seems that the person who posted this video clip was either misinformed or they were deliberately spreading wrong information about Kween. I then saw on Instagram that a user with the handle Tessa's Testicles posted a screenshot of what appeared to be a DM conversation with Kween Kong. In the DM conversation, Kween confirmed that this clip was actually from 2018, and the person Kween was fighting with was another drag queen. And this queen had apparently been racist towards Kween and called her the N-word and an overgrown monkey and told her to go back to where she came from. And so Kween was just defending herself. There was also a screenshot of what looks like a Facebook post from 2018 where Kween had addressed this video clip at the time and explained why the fight had happened, and she said that she doesn't condone violence, but she was defending herself against the racist person. And so this Facebook post, which is dated 2018, does seem to prove that this video is from 2018 and is not a recent video, despite what the person on Reddit said. But back to the accusations of the unaired fight in Untucked, Soa Demuse then went live on Instagram and a clip was posted on the RPDR drama subreddit. In Soa's live, she said that Nalenya is going to get in trouble with the contract because she's spilling backstage tea, and Soa also questioned why Nalenya was bringing all of this up now. Soa also responded to a tweet someone had posted about the original Reddit post where they said Nalenya said there was almost a physical fight between Kween and Alyssa, and Soa replied saying, "The lies, the lies, the lies." There was then another live on Instagram, and this time it was between Soa and Nalenya. Apparently the live got cut short because Soa's phone battery died, and Nalenya had to go to lunch with her family. I couldn't find a clip of this part of the live, but there was another clip which was just Soa on her own, which I think happened after Soa recharged her phone and came back on the live, but Nalenya didn't come back because she was still with her family. According to Soa, Nalenya also said that she never said that there was almost a physical fight between Kween and Alyssa, and that's why Soa commented on the tweet saying the lies, because it was all wrong information that Nalenya had not actually said that, but people were spreading this wrong information. In the meantime, Kween Kong also posted on Twitter and shared a photo of her and Nalenya from this week's mini challenge and said, "Okay, but I really had the nerve to say brother when, of all the girls, I'm the brother. Delusional. Congrats on your win at Nalenya, those looks were stunning." However, in the comments on that tweet, there was a lot of backlash with people saying that Kween needed to take accountability and apologise for her behaviour. Kween also reposted a few things in her Instagram stories where people were saying that Kween and Soa were robbed of the win this week and that there was a lot of favouritism. However, this caused even more backlash with people saying that Kween wasn't helping the situation and that she has had a lot of favouritism herself this season, so it was ironic that she was reposting these things. And it looks like Kween has since removed some of these reposts. Another Kween who also posted about the situation was Atina Likas. A Twitter user posted some photos of Atina from Untucked, saying that she was watching when everyone was arguing. Atina responded to this and said, "Girl, in real life I was shook. I can't stand to see a sister bullied." Someone then replied to Atina and said, "In fact, you were that shaken by the whole ordeal, you didn't stand up for her but laughed along." And Atina responded to that person and said, "We stand up for her at that moment, but remember there's an edit." And so it seemed that Atina was implying there was more to the fight in Untucked, but it had been edited and was different in what we saw. In the meantime, Kween had been getting a lot of hate and backlash on social media because of all of this, and Kween then eventually posted a formal response to these accusations in 2 Instagram stories which were also posted on Twitter. The posts are quite long, but I'll read them in full to make sure that I give you all the information. So the first of Kween's posts said, "I had to pray on this the past few days because I don't usually give in to things being said online, but there's a lot of accusations going around based on what Nalenya is saying happened off camera. This is now impacting my reputation and the way I support and provide for my family. Please stop with the exaggerated stories. A fight that almost got physical outside the studio that producers intervened in off camera ? This is ridiculous. Alyssa is my sister, and like true sisters we have an understanding of each other based on where we come from and what we are about. We know how to address each other and deal with our business with love and respect, which is why we have the relationship like we do to this day. Everything we discussed in our discussion together happened in the workroom while still on camera and fully mic'd. If it is what you say, they have had no problems showing all of the things said to make TV, and this would be no different. It's unfair to implicate both of us over something you were not a part of. The irony here is, if we're going to talk off camera, you know exactly why I came for you so harsh in Untucked. When Atina said that me and Soa have the best family resemblance, you know exactly what you said to Soa that upset her and the reason that I came for you. You said, but Soa, how do you feel that RuPaul only sees you as a superstar because you look like Kween Kong? That upset Soa to the point she didn't say anything. This is why I came in so hot. My delivery may have been harsh and what I said was mean, but I would never come at someone unwarranted. I've never been that girl." Then in the second Instagram story, Kween said, You and I both know, after the situation, I apologise profusely for taking your shade, going below the belt and tarnishing your moment. Throwing around the word bully, accusing me of these horrible things off camera and admitting you said to production to remove me from the competition because of what you speculate happened is so malicious and underhanded. To get on live and push rumours that are exaggerating facts to make me sound like a monster is reckless and borderline defamation. I worked hard, stood my ground in situations, spoke with my chest and made TV representing the girls I represent. The ones that you are trying to villainize that have a reason to be tough. That comes from cultures and worlds that have had to learn how to fight because of where we come from and what we have had to deal with within our own communities before even facing the cruelty of this Western world. I'm not ashamed of the things that have happened to me in my past, as it's made me the loving, thick-skinned, staunch, unapologetic Pacific warrior queen that I am. Majority of you have not experienced the things I have had to experience to exist in the same spaces as you, and if my behaviour was as you described, production would have removed me. You can band together to talk all the mess you want, but stop with the exaggerated stories to push your narrative about me. It's becoming so dangerous not only for me, but now for the children I raise in my family that are now being threatened by your fans. I don't deserve this over a TV show we made together a year ago. I'm done with this. And in the comments on Twitter, there was a mix of some people criticising Kween and saying that she still wasn't taking accountability for her actions. But there were also people defending Kween, saying that people were spreading lies about her and sending her hate unnecessarily. And so far, no one else seems to have talked about this situation any further, so for now, this is all the information we have, and we'll have to see if any more information comes out about this in the future. And as always, I just want to make it clear that it's never okay to send hate to anyone, including the queens. We don't know exactly what is and is not true because we were not there on set. And even if you disagree with how a queen has behaved, remember that it is just a TV show at the end of the day, and you can just enjoy this drama passively, but getting involved and sending hate is not okay. So please be mindful of what you post online, and that includes in the comments on this video. So there you go, there was the Have Your Say video for Global All Stars episode 9. Do you enjoy the makeover episodes? And do you think that one of the eliminated queens should have had the opportunity to return to the competition? Let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to get early access to my videos as well as have your comments featured in my Have Your Say videos, please check out my Patreon and consider supporting me. It goes such a long way to helping support my channel and I really appreciate it. And I'll put a link to my Patreon in the description. I'd also like to say a massive thank you to all of my Patreon members who are amazing and support me every month. Thank you so much for being part of my Patreon. I really appreciate it and I really do love my Patreon community. You are all legends. If you liked this video, please remember to like and comment on the video to help tell the algorithm that this is a great video, and make sure you hit the subscribe button because it really does make such a big difference to my channel. Thank you for watching and I hope you'll join me again in future videos. Thank you, bye!